Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another fun paint night here at Plaid. And I am Chris Williams. I'm joined in the studio by Stephen White. Good evening, Stephen.
Good evening, Chris. How are you?
I'm great, and I hope you're doing the same as well.
I'm doing well.
Stephen and I are here to share with you yet another fun project. We're going to all get together today, and we're going to paint Rosie Rabbit. If you have any questions throughout the lesson today, be sure and go ahead and type them in the chat. Stephen's here as my moderator this evening, moderator extraordinaire, I should say.
No,
and
come on.
the pressure's on, Stephen.
It's on now.
And so Stephen is going to be here to either help answer the question directly, or if he's not sure of the answer, he'll pass them on to me, and together we're going to put on a great show for you tonight.
I feel like at this point I should be sure of the answer, but I'm not. That's not always the case, right? So I'm sure I'll be passing some along to you.
All right, great, Stephen. We'll be a good pair tonight.
That's right.
For those of you that are tuning in and watching, you may be watching from YouTube. Welcome to all of our YouTube viewers tonight, and some of you might be tuning in from the Plaid Crafts Facebook page. We are dual streaming in both locations, so I want to be sure and welcome our Facebookers as well as our YouTubers. So glad you're here with us this evening. I think, Stephen, well, let's just go ahead and get right into this.
Yeah,
we only have about an hour together, and we have a lot of painting to do, so let's just jump right in. If you want to go overhead for me.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to raise up our little 6x6. I painted mine on a canvas panel. You could use whatever surface you like, whether you want a canvas panel or a stretched canvas, but I just want to raise up Rosie so that you could get a good close-eye view of her. If you want to even do a screen capture on your screen, this is what Rosie Rabbit looks like, and this is going to be our project for this evening. And so what I did tonight to prepare for my class is I did another canvas panel, but rather than holding the canvas like this, and for fear of getting my fingers in wet paint along the edges of my canvas, I took a moment and I used blue painter's tape, and I made a big tape loop, and I taped it to the back of my canvas. And then this is just a piece of illustration board. I painted or taped my Rosie the Rabbit onto the back side so that when we are painting along the edges here tonight, I don't have to worry about getting paint on my fingers. So that's a good pro tip if you are tuning in and watching for the first time tonight. I also wanted to share with you that there was a pattern for tonight class, and you can find this if you haven't yet found it already. This is on Plaid's website. If you go to Plaid's website, that's plaidonline.com. All you have to do is in the search bar put in Rosie Rabbit, and the whole page, which would include the supply list as well as this line art pattern, will show up for you. So if you're just watching this evening and you don't have the pattern, you can go to Plaid's website, and like I said, just search Rosie Rabbit and you'll find the supply list and the pattern, and get yourself ready for class then when you are able to paint along. I transferred just the basic shapes, just the basic outline. I didn't do any detail. So in other words, like on our little rose or the leaves, I did not transfer the little division line in the leaves, and nor did I transfer any kind of shape of the rose. It's just a circle. I just transferred basic little lines, and that's all you need to do as well. And to transfer them, I used a sheet of gray graphite, and I used an artist stylist, or a dead ballpoint pen would work the same as well. So that's what you want to do to get ready for tonight's class. The paints that we're working with tonight are the FolkArt matte acrylics. They are part of the Let's Paint Live kit. There's a kit that's available with many different colors of the FolkArt matte formula paint, and they work well together. They work well individually, and they work well on all of our paint night projects. So that's the formula that I'm going to be using tonight. And the colors that we're going to start with, let's just go ahead. If you're painting along, let's just go ahead and get some colors out onto our palette. And the first color I'm going to go ahead and pour out onto my palette, a pretty good size, I'll bring this in a little bit closer, a pretty good size little dollop, is wicker white. If you don't have wicker white, you can use titanium white. And the second color I'm going to use is actually aqua. We don't need a tremendous amount of aqua, but a little bit will do. We are going to start on the inside here of our circle. And I'm going to use my FolkArt, and I'll show you here the pack. I'm going to use my FolkArt Premium brushes. This is an artist variety pack of brushes. And I'm also going to use a round brush from the FolkArt round brush that's great for lettering and detailing. I'm going to use a round brush from this pack as well. So to begin with, I'm going to start with a flat brush. This happens to be a 1/2 inch flat brush from that same 10-piece brush set. And I'm going to load my brush, both sides of it, stroking into the puddle of our wicker white. Then I'm going to pull out just a little bit of my aqua. I'm not really double loading, I'm just kind of putting white and aqua on the brush at the same time. When we look at our sample here, and I'll kind of keep this side by side for you to be able to see both of them, the inner circle is lighter in color than the outer circle, and it's really darker here on the outer circle. Right up next to the circle line. Right now we're just doing the inside, and I'm just going to, with my white and my aqua, just paint around the shape of Rosie.
Chris,
Yes.
Ken Kinney had a couple questions.
Great. I'm going to keep painting if you want to ask them
Sure.
to me.
They asked, will the color teal work as a substitute?
Oh, teal would be great. Teal's going to be a little bit darker than aqua, but when you mix it with your white, it will be just perfect. That's a great question, Ken Kinney. I'm glad you're painting along with us tonight. For those that don't know Ken Kinney, she's tuning in all the way from Australia.
We have a couple viewers from Australia, some of them on our YouTube stream, as well as obviously Ken Kinney on our Facebook stream. So welcome, Australia.
Yeah, you're well represented tonight,
That's
right?
And they Ken Kinney also asked if I'm painting tonight too.
Oh.
That is I assure you I am not. If I were to paint Rosie, Rosie might end up looking more like a roadkill rabbit rather than a
Oh,
Rosie
that
rabbit.
is so not true, Stephen. We know, we saw a beautiful sunflower come from your paintbrush held by your hand. I know you could paint Rosie.
I held the paintbrush, but Andy did most of the thinking for me. So
I'm not going to discredit you. I think anyone can paint Rosie. When you learn step by step and just kind of follow along, it's not that difficult. But those are great questions, and I kind of wish Stephen was painting along with us this evening, but I will tell you, having been a moderator many times myself, moderating and painting at the same time is a lot of work. I don't know if that would be fair to ask Stephen to paint along while he is trying to moderate.
there's a lot of moving parts here. You know.
That's right. All right, so what we're doing right now, we've got our flat brush. A number 12 would work. This brush is labeled a 1/2 inch, and I've just picked up both a little bit of my wicker white and a little bit of my aqua, and I just kind of paint it in. It's nothing fancy. I do have a few little brush marks or brush strokes here and there. I don't mind that. I kind of like the textured effect that it gives us, and we're just going to let that go. When I get ready to start painting my outside edge, I'm going to add a little bit more aqua and less of my white when I'm right up along this edge of the circle here. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and clean that brush out, and we're going to start working on Rosie. We want to see a fun little rabbit with us. And so what I'm going to do is get a couple more colors out onto my palette. So I'm going to add some of our medium gray. If you don't have medium gray, it's a color that is very easily made. You can use a palette knife and you can mix a little bit of white plus your licorice, and that would be wicker white and licorice or pure black. Licorice will be our black color for this evening. So I just added to my palette the medium gray and the licorice. And I think I'll go ahead right now at this time and get a little another color out, and that's going to be our bright pink. This is a great pro tip for you. I pulled a bright pink to work with tonight, and I want you all to see. Can you see the shininess around the wrap here of the lid? That is actually a brand new bottle. It still has the shrink wrap around the top here. And oftentimes when I'm teaching a class in person, I will see people get their scissors out and slice it, or their craft knife and slice it. I'll see them take the bottle up to their mouth and use their teeth to try and chew this off. Please don't do that. Here's the best tip of the day. you've got it right here in your hands. If you hold the bottle with one hand, circle the other hand with your thumb and forefinger around that shrink wrapped lid, and kind of squeeze these two fingers together, and you're going to twist counterclockwise. That was one twist. Can you all see that that started moving up? Usually it's just a matter of two twists and you've got that little plastic seal off. So that's a great way. If you have never done that before, that's a great way to remove the wrap on a brand new bottle of paint. You're going to get all kinds of pro tips tonight. You like that, Stephen?
I love that. That was one of the first things that I learned when I came to Plaid. I was like, how do I like get the wraps off of all these bottles? And then somebody just like took it out of my hands and did that like it was magic. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's how you do that. So
It happens. I see it in class all the time. People are taking it up to their mouth and ruining their teeth doing that. Let's not do that.
That's a game changer tip.
Yes, yes, most definitely. All right, so let's go ahead and work with a round brush now. Most of the time when I teach, I tend to teach with a flat brush. 9 out of 10 times, maybe 9.5 out of 10 times, I'm using a flat brush. Tonight, I'm going to use a round brush for our Rosie the Rabbit. And with that round brush, it's a number 6 round brush from our round brush set. I'm going to go ahead right now and just wet my bristles, blot them dry, and then I'm going to start with my black. This is our licorice, and I'm just going to fill the tips of that round brush with our licorice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the areas of the rabbit that are the furthest away from us, which would be this back ear here. And we're going to start with our black on the tip. So if you want to turn your work upside down so that you're stroking towards that tip, it might be easier for you. And as you look at mine here, you can see that they're from the tip all the way, maybe not quite halfway into the ear. All of this is going to be black. So we're just going to start stroking out towards the tip and allow some of that fur to fall out, using the tip of the brush to kind of give you like almost like little individual hairs, or to make the fur of that bunny's ear. And what I'm doing, I'm going to raise this up so you can see, and I can't see.
You're on it. You got it.
Okay, so that's kind of the look that we want to do. We want to just start with our liner brush filled with our black paint, just kind of fill in. And if you left yourself the pattern line like I did here, you kind of know how far to go. And what you're going to do is let that black little hairlines fall out onto your background that you've already painted now. And this is just kind of filled in very quickly. I start out at the tip of the ear, and I'm working down as we go lower into the ear. This is all done with just black on that liner brush. And I'm just kind of following down the ear a little bit. All right, let's turn it around and I'll show you. That's what we've done so far. And it's okay, like I said, it's okay to show that you've got some little hairs coming out to kind of let our bunny be a little bit furry. The next step, this little section right in here as it comes down closer to the body, there's a little section in there that's primarily white, but we will pick up and use a little bit of medium gray. I'm still using my round brush, and because I'm going into white now, I wanted to rinse out that black from my brush. And I'm just pulling out some white now on the side here, turning that section upside down again. And I'm, again, still just working on the back of the ear, bringing some of that white up close to the black. And I'm actually, because my black is still wet, I'm going to make a little bit of gray. If your black is already dried, you can then go ahead and pick up a little bit of the medium gray. And I'm just kind of stroking down as I get close to the top of her head. How many of y'all are painting along with us this evening? I'd love to know.
Yeah, we've got lots of people let me know where they're watching from, which is always cool. We
Oh,
love to
that's
see that.
always a good thing, yes.
Yeah, and I'm also curious how many people are watching and painting along with us, or how many people are saving it for later, tuning into the lesson while it's happening, going back later. let us know.
And that's always a good thing too. I think sometimes if I were in their shoes, Stephen, I might just watch for the first time around and then paint on a replay. For those of you that might be catching us brand new for tonight, this is being recorded, and you will be able to watch this again on YouTube, on the Plaid Crafts YouTube channel. If you're watching on the Facebook channel, you'll notice that this is being recorded, and you'll be able to watch this again later from YouTube.
Yeah, it's helpful when you can pause it too, you know.
Yeah. So what I did right now is I kind of transitioned from our black into our white. I let some of the white blend in with our black to kind of give us a little bit of gray. Now I'm transitioning back into the black because as Rosie's ear meets her head, we have a whole big section of black along here and across the front and into the nose area. We're not going to worry about this front ear right now, but let's just pick up from the back ear here, and I am going to just darken some of that black. Again, just using my liner, it's not a liner brush, I'm sorry, it's a number 6 round brush. And I am very lightly creating just a furry back here as we come from the head down towards the neck of our little bunny girl. And I'm just worried about the back section of this little circle here, or this little spot of color. Always stroking towards the outside edge. And I'll stop and refill my brush every so often. Does anyone let us know where they're if they're painting or not, Stephen?
Yeah, so Ken Kenny is painting, which I think you and I knew that Ken Kenny was definitely painting along
That
with
would probably be a given,
us.
right?
Yeah, and then we've got Susan Hodge is watching. Renee is just watching because this is her first paint night. So welcome, Renee. Karen is going to paint tomorrow. BJ is going to paint later on. So very cool.
That's good. Well, for those of you that are planning to paint late, well, I shouldn't say that. If you're painting now or painting later, be sure and take a picture of your project once you're completed and share it with us on your social channels and or with our Let's Paint group, because we love to be able to be a cheerleader for you. If you are a member of our Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group, we want to definitely see your work. We want you to join in the fun. Be sure and take a picture and share your work. And while you're doing that, use the hashtag Let's Paint Challenge. On the front of our head of Rosie, on the outside like pattern line of her head here, you'll notice, I'm going to hold her up real close, there's not really a bunch of fur marks. This line here is very, very smooth. So I started working on this black spot here. I did not do the lower edges of the spot because we're going to have some white on it underneath before we pull out our hair here. So you can see I just basically did the outside area. Now I'm scooting along to the front, like her forehead and down her nose, and I'm going to keep that right here so you can see on that side. And I am just going to use, still working with that same round brush, I am just going to paint along and kind of give us a smooth edge, kind of giving us a pattern line of her head. Her little nose is also painted solid black. And it's almost kind of like a rounded triangle. All right, now what I'm going to do, while I still have black in my brush, let's go ahead and start in on this lower spot here, like from her shoulder down. And I am going to just start at the top of this, kind of using that pattern line to stroke down. We're basically going to kind of fill in this pattern of her spot here, but we're not going to go beyond the spot, because our white fur is going to blend into this black. So we're just going to kind of stroke in some fur, but not stroke beyond the spot mark. And this can be painted in fairly quickly. When you look at Rosie and you look at her body that is extending beyond our little circle here, it will extend and the first strokes will go out beyond and onto our background here. We don't yet have our background in, so you can just kind of stop like that with a little smooth edge or somewhat smooth edge. All right. Now let's go and add a little bit more now around the eye and down that bridge of the nose. And then we have a little bit of black that kind of goes out beyond, and I'm just kind of sketching mine on because that was a pattern line I missed. And bringing it back up underneath to her nose. Just kind of filling in with some black. Now you want to be careful at this point. We've got black from her forehead down the bridge of her nose. We have her nose. And then we have more black that finishes up this little spot of black here. We don't want to lose where her nose is. So what we're going to do is we're going to start picking up on that dirty brush a little bit of the medium gray. And that medium gray can go right up next to the black of her nose and kind of fill in the rest of that spot. And then what we'll do is we'll come back and paint some whiskers too, but we just want that medium gray kind of blending in a little bit. And I'm going to bring it up so that you can see there's a difference there of the medium gray. And now what I'm going to do is clean my brush because we're going to start working with some of our white. So I'm going to use that same round brush. I'm going to load it with our wicker white. And now I'm going to begin filling in the rest of her body. And I'm not going to worry about making these wispy hair marks here at the bottom because we want our background on first. And I'm just going to kind of lightly bring in the white. And I will tell you that every so often, especially like when we get up close to these black spots, I'm going to dip my brush into our gray, and that is medium gray. And I'm going to start bringing in some medium gray right up next to our black spots. So we're going to have a little bit of shading. Again, this is all done with your liner brush. And you're working with the white and the gray. And then I'm going to bring some down along on this side as well. And they're just lots of little pulls, if you will, short, wispy little pulls. And I'm bringing some around this side. I'll bring this up close so that you can see they're short little pulls, and that's with the white and the gray. That's medium gray. Now when we come around, as we're moving up, maybe this would be like under the chin and before the shoulder area here, you can start working with your gray on your brush and slightly start stroking some hair onto the black spot. This is medium gray with just a little bit of white. And you can make your bunny as furry as you want. Most of these are very short little strokes, not little long choppy strokes. These are very short little strokes.
Chris,
Yeah.
Renee asked, would it be better to prepare the background first?
You could, but I knew everyone would want to get into painting this bunny, so that's why I'm kind of jumping around and doing just the inside background, and then we'll paint the other outside background afterwards, because I knew everyone wanted to paint the bunny first.
Yep, Bunny's the star of the show tonight.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun too because it's like you have a friend there in the studio with you.
That's right.
So now I'm picking up more white, and that was a good question. If you would rather wait and if you are painting yours later and you want to do both backgrounds together at the same time, by all means do so. As I'm bringing the white up closer onto the face, onto the head, I'm doing the same thing. Lots of short little choppy strokes. And I can start bringing some of the little fur on top of our black areas. And you can do the same. And I keep going back every now and then and lightening up some of our gray areas with just a few more strokes of hair. And then we get up closer to the face here. Some of this black is going to end up going over on top of the white, so we don't have to worry too much about covering up a lot of that. Get some of this white up next to our black and over the eye. I'll bring up a little bit of gray to do that. Basically, everywhere where you have a white section kind of marrying up next to a black section, use just a little bit of medium gray just to kind of soften that white next to the black. All right, now what I'm going to do is I am going to go back. I wiped the white onto a paper towel off of my brush. I'm going to pick up our black again. Again, this is my licorice. And now what I'm going to do is start bringing some of this black area on top of the white with the short little choppy strokes. So that's now, because we now have our white on there, I can now bring our black into play. And if you feel like you've lost, like on the tip of the area here where I'm working with near the nose, if you feel like you've lost some of that, you're more than welcome to go ahead and pick up some of the charcoal gray, or medium gray I should say, and you can add a little bit more medium gray to kind of lighten that cheek area. And I'm going to bring a little bit more around this way, and as we're coming around here, we can start talking about that front ear, the ear that's closest to us. Bring some of this black here on this spot. We're out onto the white. This is not a very realistic bunny, but it's just a very fun little spring bunny.
I was thinking that this is a realistic bunny, if I'm being honest.
Well, I know that there really are black and white bunnies. And those of you that know me know that I have a black and white dog. Her name is Lucy Lou. So maybe I was a little inspired by her when I was painting this project. All right. I'm going to rinse out my brush right now, and let's skip over to a couple areas where we're going to add some of this very bright pink. This is a very, very, very bright pink, and you can see I'm just adding my liner brush here into the puddle of the pink, and I'm pulling out just a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a tip of white to it. I don't want it quite that bright or that vibrant. So we're adding a little bit of white to our bright pink. And when we look at Rosie's front ear, as you look at the ear that is to her back, so that would be the left side of the ear here. I'm going to bring it up so you can see. Look at the front ear, look at the left side. Can you see that little ring of pink that's there? That's what we're going to paint right now. And that has a smooth edge. We're not going to do the little feather strokes, so you can kind of just paint it in long and smooth. So that's what I've got right here, is just the pink on the edge there. With this same bright pink and a little bit of white mixture, we are going to paint the white of the bunny's eye, which is really not white. It really is pink, not the color portion of the eye, but when I'm raising up the eye, you can see real close now if you're painting along. The white of the eye is painted with that bright pink plus white mixture. And you can use that same round brush and just use the tip of the brush to kind of carefully paint in. And when I've got mine done, I'll bring up mine and I'll show you here. All right, and I'm going to add just a touch more of that bright pink on mine. There we go. So let me show you mine up close. So it's mainly towards the bottom of the eye. That is the white of the eye. And so the white really is a bright pink color. Let's go back to our ear while that's going ahead and setting and drying up. So when we look at the front ear here, the inside of the ear is a darker on the right hand side here. So we're going to paint all the way on the left side next to our pink first. And you can start with a little bit of that charcoal gray, and I am stroking out towards the pink. So I'm going to turn mine this way and stroke away from me. If it's easier, if you want to pull it and start stroking towards you, you can. We're going to just put a little bit of gray on that outside edge. Can you see the short little choppy strokes that I did on mine? And then I'm going to add a little bit more gray, maybe do a second row. And that is our medium gray, and I'm using just the tip of this round brush. Now I'm going to start introducing our black. So the black again is licorice that I'm using tonight, and I'm going to start letting that black, look at the base of the ear, the black is now kind of overstroking on top of that gray. And we're just going to kind of stroke in, allowing there to have that look of some hair, wispy ends of the hair that's kind of, oops, hanging out. And that one was a little bit darker there.
Diane said that she is just watching tonight and that her paint room is still in chaos while packing up to get her new floor. And I just wanted to say I feel for anybody who is cleaning up their craft room right now, because I know that is different from cleaning up other rooms, I'm sure. So
The problem with, let me tell you this, Stephen, because I have a studio space in my house too, and Diane probably can relate to this. The problem with cleaning up and trying to get organized is the fact that you realize you have so much fun stuff that maybe you forgot you had. And it makes you want to start playing with all that fun stuff instead of cleaning and organizing.
yeah, there's layers of difficulty with cleaning up the craft room. So if you're cleaning up your craft room or if you're organizing, our heart goes out to you. We feel you.
But think of this, Diane. Once you finish and you have it all done, it's going to be a joy to behold, and you're going to feel so creative and so fun. We're all going to want to come paint with you in your new studio, right, Stephen?
That's right. Some of us will be better painters than others, but you know. I'm talking about myself, by the way.
It's never a contest, Stephen.
Oh, you know, I don't see it as a competition. I just see it as like, wow, look at all these people and how they've spent all this time doing this thing, and then I get thrown into it, you know, on camera. My first adult painting.
Yes, but you did a fabulous job. And you know what? Isn't it Picasso that said we were all amateurs at one point in time in our life?
I guess you're right.
Yeah.
I see all the things shared to our Let's Paint group, our Plaid Crafts page, you know, people sharing in the comments what they've painted, and I'm always so impressed with you guys. So we do love to see that.
We have a great group of people that join us all the time. We thank you all for doing so. If you're joining us on YouTube tonight and you just happen to find us, we have a fabulous Learn to Paint community that Stephen's talking about. It's called Let's Paint with Plaid. It's a Facebook group, and we welcome you to come join us. All right, so I'm going to share with you that we first did the pink edge here on this forward ear. Then I started with a little bit of that medium gray, and then I kind of brought in more of the black and kind of let my black get darker as it came towards the right side. This is our inner ear that we're looking at here. And there's a little rim right on this edge right here, and I'm going to share with you on my hero. That rim is going to be white. So we're going to do lots of little short white pulls from the base of the ear all the way up to where it's going to meet that pink of the ear. So I cleaned the black out of my brush. I now have my round brush, again just using the tip of the round brush, and I am going to lightly now, ever so lightly, just using the tip of the brush, bring some fur out onto the black of the inner ear. So that's kind of like the edge of the ear there. The little fur is kind of hanging out there.
Diane said, Stephen, we all probably have 40 years of painting under our belts. You know, that's true. And I don't even have 40 years of painting.
He doesn't have 40 years,
I don't have
period.
40 years on my life. So,
Stephen's a baby.
you know, I see what you guys are rocking with, and I respect it. This is a lifelong hustle that you have dedicated yourself to. So
Well, and you know what, Stephen? Look at the inspiration that's all there in front of you. All of our friends are cheering you on.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Chris.
All right. Okay, so now I have a little bit of a white furriness surrounding that edge. And we're now going to come back with that same brush and our same black, it's licorice. And we're going to do just that very front edge here. And I'm not stroking out beyond the ear. This is going to be a nice smooth edge here. I'm stroking towards the white that we just placed on there. So this is the time, kind of like the front of our body, the front of the head here. This is going to be, if you want to, even just go ahead and give yourself the pattern here of a nice smooth edge. So you'll know not to go beyond that point. So if you want to, go ahead and give yourself a little black line with our licorice. And now you're going to pull that into our white. And if your white is still wet, you may pull some of the white from the tip of the brush, and that's okay. We'll turn it into black. I'm sorry, we'll turn it into a gray.
I have an interesting question here.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me find it. Judy says that she has a bunny and that the inside of her bunny's ear is like a flesh/pink color. I guess she's wondering if she could paint the inside of her bunny's ear that color.
Oh,
rather than
sure.
black.
Of course she can.
It's kind of like what we were saying earlier. This isn't the most realistic bunny. This is sort of our interpretation. This is a Lucy Liu inspired bunny.
There we go.
So you are more than welcome to go with a different color for the inside of the ear.
And if you wanted like a flesh color, a great color to use would be a color that's called Cool Bisque.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great Caucasian skin, fleshy kind of color.
That's right.
So that might be kind of fun if you've got that, to try that.
And we're talking in our YouTube chat about sharing our best work in the Facebook group, and Linda says, I only share my best paintings, and then she put a little wink there. I can relate to that, Linda. I only share the best videos that I make, to my friends and stuff. I have a lot of things that I think are duds. I made a video recently that I'm very proud of, so maybe some people will see that. But yeah, I definitely relate to that. And if you have things, like we've said 100 times, that you want to share, put it in our Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group.
Yes, and you know what? To that point, though, it was Linda, did you say?
That was Linda.
Yeah. Please don't feel like you're inadequate or your work is not good, because we all want, I especially want to be a cheerleader to help bring you with more confidence and allow you that freedom to feel like you can do it. We all have to start somewhere, like I just told Stephen. And whether you feel you're a beginner or you feel you're an experienced painter, we want to see all of it and be a cheerleader for you.
Yeah, and it's a good way to have Chris and Andy get their eyes directly on your painting, and maybe sometimes they can offer suggestions, too. That's another good way. And then the words of encouragement, like Chris talked about. It's a really good group.
All right. Well, while we've been talking, I've been kind of moving around on my bunny a little bit. What I did was I added some white just above the eye, so like almost like the above the eye or the eyelid area. I added some white here, and I kind of let some of that white blend out onto the black. Everywhere where the white area is meeting the black or the black area is meeting the white, it's okay to go ahead and leave yourself some of those little furry marks. And so I just did that. And I'm going to bring some of my white fur up on the back there. And I think I'm liking how my Rosie's turning around and turning out. She is starting to look like a little bunny. So now I'm going back, and let's now go back to the rest of her eye. I'm going to get one more color out onto the palette, and that is our brown. Her eye, the color part of her eye, her iris, is going to be coffee bean. So go ahead and get out a nice warm brown coffee bean. I'm going to go ahead and use that liner brush.
And I feel like I'm anticipating a little bit, but I feel like we're going to get a question, what if I don't have coffee bean? You can use real brown, I would say.
Real brown? Oh, Stephen, see, you do know how to paint.
Oh, I'm all talk, Chris. I know the lingo. When it comes to technique, though, I don't have 50 years, like Janice says, She's got 50. I don't got that. I just know the words to say, right? That's where I'm at.
You can lip sync the song, is that
There
it?
it is, yeah.
All right, everyone. I took my burnt umber and I used the tip of that same round brush. It's a number 6 round brush. And I painted in the circle, the color portion of the eye. And that, again, is our coffee bean or real brown, as Stephen says.
There you go.
Any nice warm brown color is what you could use to kind of paint the bunny's eye. While I still have the brown in my brush, I haven't touched the water, I haven't touched my paper towel, I'm going to pull out just a little bit of our black or our licorice. And so now it's actually a little bit on my brush as a darker brown. I'm going to hold my sample up. When we look at the eye, we're going to kind of paint in like a pupil, and I'm going to hold it up. It's kind of like in the middle of the eye, but it's also going towards the back. So can you see the darker? I know my hand's jiggling here.
I think we see what you're talking about.
Yeah, we're just with that dirty brush in the middle of that brown. We're going to give our little bunny a little bit of, and you don't want it to look too beady, so it can be a little bit bigger, a little browned pupil, a darker brown pupil inside the brown color portion of the eye, which is your iris. All right?
Look at you using anatomical words over here.
Well, that's why I'm also saying color portion. And okay, now I'm going to take a little bit of water in my brush, and this is such a nice round brush that's got a nice tip on it. I don't have to move down to a liner brush. You could if you feel more comfortable doing so. I took a little water from my palette, brought it over here to the puddle where my black is, where my licorice is, and I pulled out some of that paint to kind of thin it down a little bit. What we're going to do with this liner brush and or round brush with your thinned black paint, I'm going to bring up my sample again. See the eye, how the eye is kind of outlined with the black. That's what we're going to do. So the outline is all the way around the eye, and let me bring that up one more time and show you. Look at your pattern and look at mine. Look at the shape. We're going to allow some of that pink below the color portion of the eye to show, and the two ends of the eye, it's not a complete oval, it's almost like a pointed end oval, if that makes sense. So start at one end, and again, just use the tip of the brush if you're sticking with your round brush, and my hand might be in the way. I need to hold this down so I can see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm going up and over.
Do what you got to do.
So there's one half, up and over, and I'll do the same thing below. And if it's easier for you to pull towards you, do so. If it's easier to pull away from you, you can do so. So now we have our eye outlined, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of white in the brush and just a touch of our gray. And what I want to do, if you look at the eye again on my finished piece, at those two pointed ends, we're going to have a little gray coming out from either end. So that is a very light gray. So I started with some wicker white. I added a little bit of our medium gray, kind of brush mixed on the side here. And now what I'm going to do is from this kind of pointy end, just kind of make some little lines to kind of darken. Add a little more gray and kind of darken up the outside edges of our eye. So we're just going to get some dark in here, and you can kind of stroke some of that.
Chris, have you ever seen those rabbits that have like extremely red eyes?
Yes, I mean never in person,
Uh-huh.
but I've seen pictures. Have you?
I have seen, like, I used to, this is revealing a bit about me. When I was homeschooled, I had a project where I had to take care of rabbits, and we had several different kinds. We had to bring, you know, a cage to build for them and all that stuff, and feed them
Really?
and take care of them. And we had one rabbit who was completely white, had no other color on him except his eyes were like beady little red eyes. It almost looked like he didn't even have pupils, you know, that's just solid red. And I understand that's just what he looks like, and that's normal for him, but it made me, like, think that it hurts, right? Like, I wanted to give him Visine all the time or
Oh,
something.
that's probably, yeah.
But no, he's just, this is what his eyes look like, you know? So I thought that was interesting.
Very interesting. As I'm looking at mine, I'm going to make the pupil a little bit bigger on my eye here than what I originally painted. There we go. I think I like that a little bit better. And now I'm going to bring up my hero one more time. Look at this, the eye, and there is a highlight in the eye. And this time we're only going to put one highlight. I usually do 2 highlights in every eye, but this one's only 1. And that is done with your liner brush and or your round brush that you're painting with. It's loaded with wicker white. And if you look at the top of the eye, it's almost like a touch down, pull, quick lift type stroke, but it's also kind of shaped like a, maybe like a rainbow. You're kind of following the shape of that. So when I did that stroke, I started on the back side of the, I'll pull it up. I started on the back side of the eye and I pulled this way towards the nose. So I'm going to touch down, quick pull, and that's going to be our highlight inside the eye. So everyone can take a little bit of white and highlight their eye. And now let's go ahead and I think my gray on the center needs to be a little bit more gray by the nose. So I'm going to stop and pick up a flat brush real quick. And I'm going to add a little bit more gray right around the muzzle, if you will. I want my whiskers to show and I want my muzzle to be a little bit different than the nose. So this is what I did was I used my flat brush, a little bit of our medium gray, and I added some more gray here in this area of the muzzle. Okay, now let's real quickly start moving on to the outside edge here. We'll come back and do whiskers. We'll come back and check that highlight in the eye. I'm going to have to put a little bit more highlight on mine. But let's start moving on this outside edge here before we do our leaves and our rose. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that, flat brush, and I am going to kind of this time side load a little bit. I'm going to put some white in my brush, and I'm going to work a corner at a time, and I'm kind of bringing that white on the side of the brush from my edges in, working down towards, can you see where I'm working? Towards that circle. So the part of my brush that has white in it is working on the outside edge of my canvas, and I'm only going to work a corner at a time. So I've got white all the way, like from my leaf area here, all the way down like there. I'm working like one corner at a time. White is not completely yet touching the aqua circle. So I've got white in my brush. Now I'm going to start, after I've kind of got a base of the white down, I'm going to start picking up my aqua a little bit at a time. And I'm going to start blending that in and then start working closer and closer as I'm patting that on. I'm going to pat that close to that circle. So we want it darker on the outside of our little bunny circle. And I'm going to start working over here towards the leaf. And this does not have to be an exact circle. And let me show you in just a minute why I say that. We are going to do a little trim on this circle that it doesn't matter if your circle is not completely perfect. This is why I love to teach beginner type projects, because beginners will get a feel that, oh my gosh, I can do this. So once we kind of have the white on the corners and we have that aqua close to the circle, now I start pulling it out and blending the two. So I am lightening this corner with a little bit more aqua. You can kind of go back and forth like I'm doing. And we will repeat this on every single little corner. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit more of my aqua color. And let it blend into the pink. I'm sorry, into the white. Okay, now I'm going to wipe my brush and I'm going to pick up mostly our white again, and let's move on to a new corner. And I'm really getting that white on the corner, bringing it in and blending towards that center. We're only working a section at a time because when you work with acrylics, if you're in a well-lit area, maybe you are working near your fireplace and it's nice and cozy, might be a little warm, your paint might dry a little bit quicker. So we're only working a corner section at a time. And I'm allowing that to blend out. And now I'm going to move on to another section. Again, working the white first. This doesn't require a lot of talent. When you break this kind of a project down step by step, it's just so fun and so easy. And little Rosie here can be painted in a very short time period. And what the section that we're working on now, this outer band of color and background, this is one great reason why when I started out I showed you that I had my little canvas panel attached to a piece of illustration board, because I don't have to worry about getting my hands dirty with paint. Some of you might enjoy that prospect or that aspect of it, but some of us don't like to get our hands dirty. And this last little bit, we're just going to work around the shape of where our leaf is, around the shape of where our rose flower is going to be, and our other leaf. So just lightly kind of blend that in. This does not require a lot of detail work. We're just kind of getting that color on there. This is not the hero of the show. The hero is going to be Rosie and your leaves and your little rose. Any questions at this point, Stephen?
I don't think so. I think everybody is watching / painting along. I was talking about the rabbits I had when I was finishing up high school. And Linda shared that she said, I have a pet duck, or I had a pet duck when I was about 8 years old. I used to dress her in my baby sister's clothes.
That's great.
Linda, that is outrageous, and I love it. That is so cool to picture a little duck walking around.
I know, that is. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, now what I'm going to do, and we can come back and put more darkness in or even more lightness. Matter of fact, I might lighten the inside of this section right here a little bit. Take a little bit of the aqua and the white and kind of lighten up that one section there. A little bit of aqua. And I'm just patting some more color on just to kind of lighten this section up, because I've got such a nice dark shadow on the outside edge there. Okay. All right, now what I'm going to do is, while I still have some aqua in my brush, I'm going to wipe it a little bit to remove that excess white that was also in there. And what I'm going to do now is just fill my brush solid with the aqua, and let's paint in our 3 leaves aqua. And the leaves are just, and this is my flat brush, this is my 1/2 inch flat brush that I was using for my background. You could also switch and use a number 12 if you wanted to. The leaves are just solid aqua, and then we will introduce another color to shade. So let's just get our aqua leaves on. They're flat as they curve around our rose area, but they are a rounded tip at the outside of our leaves. They're not a pointy leaf, pointy tip leaf, I should say. They're a rounded tip leaf. And there are 3. There's 2 at the bottom and 1 at the top.
We did have a question. How did you stick the canvas to the illustration board? You just used tape, right?
I did. I just had a roll of painter's tape here, and I made a great big tape loop. I actually made 2, one on either side right here, and then I taped it right down to my panel that I'm using. Okay, now let's go ahead and put a base color on our rose. And what I did for our rose, we only have the one pink tonight, and I felt like that was way too deep of a pink. So I'm going to brush mix a little bit of my bright pink and a little bit of our brown. We're going to use our burnt umber and our pink to come up with a different, darker value of our pink, not a bright, bright, bright pink. And I've got a color here that I kind of like as my base. It's a darker pink, so we're just going to kind of, can you see the darkness there? That is the burnt umber plus our bright pink, and I just brush mixed. And what I'm going to do now is just kind of pat that color on and just kind of base coat our little rose shape, the little circle. And then we're going to let that kind of set up a minute. So now that we have our outside background done, we can come back with that liner brush, and all of this fur that comes out beyond the body here of the bunny can now be painted on using that liner brush and the tip of your liner brush. So I'm going to load my either liner brush or my round brush. I'm using my round brush. And I'm now going to paint some of the wispiness of the hairs on this black section. And just a little bit of wispiness out from our bunny. And if you, while you have the black in your brush, if you see anything else that you might want to do, I might want to add just a few more little hairs here on the back of the neck going down. I might want to add a little bit more there. This is where you can kind of play around and either round up your edges or add a few more little hairs if you want to. All right, I like all that black. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my white with that same round brush, and I'm going to bring out the white hairs along the edge here. I can even tip my brush into a little bit of my gray and do some gray hairs first, then come back and add some liner brush or round brush details of hairs that are painted with just white alone. So we might want to put a few gray hairs out here first. And again, I'm just using light pressure in the tip of my brush. And now I'm going to pick up some of the white. I hope you all are having a good time tonight. I wonder if we have anyone in the audience viewing that actually has raised rabbits.
Yeah, Wendy just said we had a buck rabbit named Buck, and he was a free range. He had free range of the yard. He would go into the pasture and wait by the horses' feed buckets and eat grain with them.
Nice. I have a little bunny in my backyard, Stephen, that will show up every once in a while. It's a big, fat, brown bunny.
Does Lucy Lou have a problem with it?
No. No, Lucy Lou's very patient. I have deer in the backyard that show up every once in a while. She's very patient with all those creatures.
Nice.
She wants to be out there and stand on the porch and watch them. Okay, so now what I've done is I've added the hair here on our bunny that now kind of overlaps onto our background. And we're going to let that kind of sit now for a moment. And I'm going to add just a little bit more highlight to my eye. I think I had too much water in my brush when I did it and it went away. So I'm going to touch mine. There we go. Got a nice little highlight on there. Our little bunny has some tiny little whiskers up front. This I am going to switch to my liner brush so I can get a really nice small thin lines, and I'm going to show you my hero up front. Can you see all the little like whisker dots first? They're just kind of scattered on the muzzle of the bunny, and then just a few little liner brush pulls are made with the liner brush, and I'm going to use a combination of my wicker white, thinning that down, and adding just a touch of the gray to it. We're going to make a very pale, pale gray. Our whiskers are going to be the pale gray, and the little whisker dots are going to be the pale gray. So I'll show you one more time if you missed it. Whisker dots and just a few pulls to make some whiskers. So our whisker dots are right up near the nose, but yet still on the muzzle. I'll show you mine. And now I'm going to make sure that my liner brush is good and full with thinned, very pale, pale gray paint. And I'm going to make a few pulls for our whiskers, starting inside the area where the whisker dots are, and and pull very lightly, coming out. And not too many, just a few here and there. So there's my hero, and here's my one I'm painting today. And now what I'm going to do, looks like I missed a little bit of my nose. I'm going to come back in and put my nose back in. There we go. Is we're going to go back to our leaves and go back to our rose. Okay. And so I'm going to use that flat brush that we used to base in our leaves. And this time I'm going to load my brush with the local color, or our base color, which is our aqua. And I'm going to add one more color out onto my palette, and that is Thicket. And if you don't have Thicket, Sap Green would work. And what I'm going to do is I have my full flat brush loaded with the aqua. I'm going to stroke a side of it into our darker green, and mine again is Thicket. And I am going to shade on this side of the leaf, or the base of the leaf, where it's right next to our rose, and then I'm going to shade on what is the bottom side, or the dark side of my leaf. So I'm going to just simply pat on that dark color at the base of the leaf, and then I'm going to determine that one side is darker than the other. One side will be my dark side or base of the leaf, and I'm going to bring it up this way. So that's basically what I'm doing to each of those leaves. I've got my base color, or my local color of the aqua, in my brush. I'm going to pat along where the rose leaf is meeting the rose, and then I'm going to determine right side, left side, whichever side I think is going to be my dark half of the leaf, and I'm going to paint and allow that to go reaching up towards the tip. And then for my last leaf, I'll do the same thing again. I'm patting that color on where it meets the rose, and then I'm bringing it down the side of the leaf that I want it to be my dark side. All right, that's 3 leaves shaded. Now I'm going to start with my base color again, my local color. I'm going to use just a little bit of white on one tip or one corner of the brush. I'm blending on that palette so that I can really blend that white into our color, our base color, our aqua. And with this brush loaded with that lighter color, I'm going to come from the tip of the leaf and stroke on the light side of the leaf. So we're going to start at the tip, keeping the lighter side of that brush mixture to the outside edge of the leaf, and just pat that on from the tip along the light side of the leaf. And that's all there is to that lightness. And we'll come back, and with our liner brush, or you can use that same round brush that you've been working with just loaded with the darker green, you're just simply going to pull from the base out towards the tip a little vein or a separation line between your leaves, right down the middle. With that same mixture of the green and the liner brush, with a little bit of water, you're going to outline each of those leaves too. So I'm starting from the base, and I am very lightly stroking up towards what is our rounded tip. This again is done with the thicket, or you could use a sap green if you don't have the thicket. And with this same brush mixture, all the way around the outside edge of our little circle, there's a very skinny little wiggly line. And this was the reason why you don't have to worry that your circle isn't 100% perfect. We're just going to use that little tip of the end of the brush and create just a hit or miss. I started mine there. See how wiggly and loose that is? We're just going around that circle with a very hit or miss, wiggly line. And this is perfect for beginners because, again, the pressure is off you. You don't have to worry about trying to make it look like it's a complete dinner saucer circle. Dinner plate or saucer, teacup saucer circle. And you don't want to do that line here at the base where our fur has already extended. So we're just doing a little bit right here underneath the double leaves and then all the way around the rest of it. I used my same brush to sign my name with that same color when I was done. But because we're not done, we haven't finished our rose. Real quickly now, we're going to begin with that brush mixture of our brown, and again that's coffee bean, and bright pink. We're going to make that pink mixture in our flat brush, and now I'm going to wipe that out. And I'm going to use that paint mixture plus some white, and I'm going to begin shading my rose. So what I'm going to do with some coffee bean and some of our dark pink mixture, we're going to use white to make our petals, so we're going to use this to do the shading at the bottom or the base of our rose. I'm just patting that darker color on at the bottom of the rose, and then I'm going to pat a little circle up here at the top, creating what would be the inside of the bowl of our rose. So I've got a rose now that started with our base pink color and a little bit of our brown, which again is the coffee bean. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to load my brush good and full of this base color that we mixed, and I'm going to add a little bit of white. So I am tipped the corner of my brush into the wicker white. And with this brush loaded, that is double loaded with the pink and the white, I'm now going to begin just very loosely adding some rose petals. We're going to start right around the opening of our rose. And I am just going to keep my brush so that the chisel edge, the flat edge here of the brush, this very chisely point, is touching my rose. And I'm just going to do a little pull. Then I'm going to do another little pull, only this time might be a little bit flatter. I'm going to start circling, if you will, around that opening. There's another little pull, and then another little pull. So now what we have is we have a brush that's loaded the same way. We're just going to keep making these little short pulls. Can you see there's little more pulls? This is all done around that center rose, or the center bowl, I should say, of our rose. Just keep adding a few more strokes here and there as you get wider and wider out onto your rose. Let some of your strokes fall out onto the leaves. So again, it's a brush mix of our coffee bean and our bright pink. Then we side load a little bit with white. We blend on the palette so that you have white and this brush mixture of pinks. And then we just keep adding, starting on the chisel edge, pulling some strokes in towards the center allowing some of those strokes to be on top of our leaves. And pull and pull. It's not a fancy rose, it's a very, very simple rose. I might want to add just a few more little white petals here and there. Kind of like the darkness of this one. And now the last thing I'm going to do is with the corner of this flat brush that has the white side in it, I'm going to turn that brush straight up and down. It's not flat. I'm turning it upside down so that the white side is down, and I'm just lightly going to tap inside the center of our rose and kind of create just a few little dots of color. And you can see it here on the hero one and two. It's just that tip of the brush that's made all those little light marks. And you know what, Stephen, I think we've got another Rosie Rabbit.
Oh my gosh.
All completed.
They're multiplying like rabbits.
You've been waiting all class long to say that, haven't you?
I just thought of that, and I'm so proud of myself for thinking of that.
I know,
right now.
that's fantastic. Now what I did, I told you all I used my liner brush, and I used the same mixture of that dark green that we did this really wiggly jiggly line around the circle. I used that same brush and same consistency paint, same color, which was our sap green, to sign my name going up here in the circle. Do we have any questions, Stephen?
I don't see any as of now, but if you guys have any last minute questions, be sure to type them up while Chris talks about our Let's Paint Live that we have coming up on Thursday.
Yes, Thursday we are going to have another bunny. So for those of you that cannot get enough bunnies.
I was going to say, if you didn't get enough bunnies, boy, just stick around.
Really, we have got the bunnies for you this month. And also, just like Stephen said, they keep multiplying, right?
It's funny how that works.
So I want you all to know that you can come and attend this class. I think Kirsten Jones is going to be our lead teacher for this. And this is going to be on Paint Night Live Thursday.
This will be, yes.
Yeah, this Thursday, right? Because it's the first Thursday of the month. And I think you're all going to have a great time. This looks like it could be a 12 by 12 canvas. And Kirsten is going to be our lead teacher, and so she will be happy to work with you to take you step by step along the way to be able to paint this fun bunny.
Yeah, Kirsten hasn't been in the office for a while because she's been in Greece, so if you tune in, be sure to welcome her back. We have not seen Kirsten in a long time. Yeah, I know she's excited to help you guys learn
Quite
how
a
to
bit
paint.
different between Rosie the bunny, but that's the beauty of painting with a variety of different artists. We all have a different take, different tips and techniques to share with you. I hope you learned some fun things tonight while you were painting or watching along on to maybe paint later Rosie Rabbit. If you have any last minute questions, now's the time to let Stephen know.
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, thank you, Stephen, for helping me moderate both the Facebook group of Plaid Crafts as well as Plaid Crafts channel on YouTube tonight. I thank you all for tuning in, both of our Facebook audience as well as our YouTube audience. I'm Chris Williams, and I hope that you do take the time to, when you have a moment, to paint Rosie the Rabbit. Take a picture of her, join our Facebook group, Let's Paint with Plaid, and post a picture. I want to be your personal cheerleader to cheer you on after you've shared your Rosie Rabbit. Any other things, Stephen, you'd like to share?
Do you want to talk about the gift card exchange again one more time?
Oh, perfect, yeah. If you are a member of our Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group, we currently have a artist, from one artist to another artist, exchange going on. That is our greeting card exchange. We started last Christmas and we did an ornament exchange. This season, right now, we are doing a 3 greeting card and 3 envelope painted exchange. If you join Let's Paint with Plaid, in the featured section at the top of the page, you'll find a very long-winded post with all of the details and all of the information. Basically, if you'd like to join, all you have to do is simply design and paint 3 greeting cards. You can use any of the inspiration from our Let's Paint with Plaid group, or you can do your own thing. We ask that you use Plaid products to paint those greeting cards and envelopes. And then what you're going to do is send them in to Plaid to my attention. All the information's in that post. And then what we do is we do some really fun photography. We start sharing them with social posts within our Facebook group. And then in March, that's all through March. Then in April, by mid-April, we're going to make that exchange, and you send in 3, I'm going to send you back 3 from another artist. And not only it is a great way from one artist to share their work with another artist, but it's a great way to make friends within our Let's Paint membership group, and you're just going to have a great time. So I hope that you do go to the Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group. Look for that featured post at the top of the page, and you'll get all the information for the Let's Paint greeting card exchange. I'd love for you to be able to participate with us and have fun with us.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I think that pretty much covers everything.
Okay.
So well done, Chris. Everybody's loving Rosie Rabbit.
I hope so.
And if we haven't said it 100,000 times, be sure to post your painting in the Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group. If I happen to paint Rosie Rabbit, I will post it in the. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up or anything. No promises.
Oh,
but,
he's already got my hopes up, y'all.
Well, if you see a Rosie Rabbit from me, be extra nice to me about it, or just roast me, roast my rabbit. You know, do whatever you want. Anyway, Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group. Share your paintings. That's all.
And this, folks, is why I introduced Stephen White as our moderator extraordinaire at the beginning of our lesson tonight. Thank you, Stephen, for making our class so much fun.
You're most welcome.
And we, meaning me, cannot wait to see your Rosie Rabbit.
I gotta do it now.
Yep.
I've already committed to the bit, so.
Yeah, you kind of opened your mouth and inserted your foot, I think.
Good grief.
But you can do it. Right, everyone? Let's all cheer Stephen on. He can do it.
Chris, we can't hear them. We can see their comments, but we can't hear them. We can't hear their cheers. That's not how it works. All right. Well,
Thank you all for tuning in this evening. I hope you had a great time. I know I did, and I think Stephen did as well.
I did. I'm happy to be here.
All right. Until next Thursday. Remember, Thursday with Kirsten.
I want a correction. Yeah, it's April's class. We jumped the gun, you and I. This is April's Let's Paint Live, but it was never too early to promote it. I had it in my head that we are doing it this week. We're not. We've been moving things around. All of our lives have sort of shifted to 7:30 too. Some people were pointing that out. So we are doing some scheduling adjustments to our live streams, and everything's been scrambled.
So this Rabbit with Kirsten is in April.
April 6th.
Okay, we misspoke. Sorry about that. Stephen just handed it to me and I started talking.
That's on me. My bad, Chris.
All right, so let's see. So tomorrow, if you are a member of our Let's Paint group, we have our Lunch and Learn Technique Tuesday tomorrow. Master class is Wednesday, and Thursday is another Technique Tuesday. So until we see you all another time, I thank you for